I wish to begin by thanking Peter Chapman for bringing this important debate to the Parliament. I would also like to join Mr Chapman in welcoming the Ukrainian Ambassador and members of the Scottish-Ukrainian community to the Parliament, and to express my solidarity with the people of Ukraine and the Ukrainian state. This debate is important for several reasons. Firstly, it is important because it is important to remember. If the Korean War was the forgotten war of the 20th century, the Holodomor was the forgotten genocide of the 20th century. And I want to recognise members who have used that word genocide, and it is encouraging to hear from across the chamber the recognition that the Holodomor was a genocide. And Mr Chapman very eloquently explained that by citing historical sources, highlighting the way in which the Ukrainian people and their culture were deliberately targeted. Presiding Officer, we have a duty to make sure that more people are aware of this catastrophe. And I certainly will undertake to make sure that, in my capacity as a constituency member, that I engage with schools in my constituency of Renfrewshire South to increase awareness. Because there are several important lessons that I think emerge from this catastrophe, 85 years on. And that is one, is the way in which ideology, taken to its extreme, can dehumanise people. It is, to use Burke's term, geometric politics, where individuals are subsumed into a collective, where people are instrumentalised and used as a vehicle for some other political end, and individual liberty is lost. That, I believe, was perhaps best captured in its most sinister form by that set of words often attributed to Stalin, that a single death is a tragedy and a million deaths is a statistic. And even if that statement is apocryphal in its source, it sums up the fundamentals of communist ideology. It sums up the ideology that led to something like the Holodomor taking place. Now, there is also an important lesson to be learned about how the Holodomor was reported and how it was forgotten and how we relearn about it. Because, as all members have highlighted in their remarks, there has been a profound lack of awareness. But there wasn't when it occurred. There was an enterprising, bold and brave young Welsh journalist by the name of Gareth Jones, who has been honoured in Ukraine. Now, Gareth Jones didn't live to see his 30th birthday, but as a brilliant young man, fluent in French, German and Russian, an aide to former Prime Minister David Lloyd George, he travelled to the Ukraine and he witnessed firsthand some of the scenes that other members have described. And he came back and he gave compelling testimony. And of course, what happened? The Kremlin denied it. Those with Soviet sympathies in the West poured scorn and discredited Mr. Jones. There is a lesson of actions emanating from Moscow and then attempts to discredit it by Moscow and people in the West being sympathetic to the Kremlin line. A lesson 85 years ago, but is still very valid. And what happened to Gareth Jones is he regained his reputation and he went to Japanese-occupied Mongolia to report on events there. And he died in mysterious circumstances. But two of the last people he met were Stalin's NKVD agents. And there's a lesson there to be learned as well. Presiding Officer, if I may just in concluding say that this year may represent the 85th year, the anniversary of the Holodomor, but it is also the 10th anniversary of the Prague Declaration on European Conscience and Communism, from which we have the European Day of Remembrance for victims of Stalinism and Nazism. We all have a duty, both in this place and in our work in our constituencies, to make sure that prominence is given to the victims of the Holodomor and that future generations will never forget, because Fundamental to this are the words of George Santayana. Those who do not know the past are condemned to repeat it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.